Yo, what's up, YouTubers? Okay, so we're here at the house. We got a little dog. We had two little dogs, but one of them went away. We got a little Pop. Hey, Pop. Oh, we got a little Chewy. Oh, we got hot dogs. It was hot on them today, so they didn't go outside very long because they were hot dogs. I said, hot dog. What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Did you see yourself? Did you get scared? Did you get scared? Don't be scared. Here's that little dog right here. Okay, so the video. Hang on a second here. Oh. Let's get serious about this deal. Okay, so I was watching this thing about getting started with a career and everything, and not being going to school. And you get out here, you get to trucking. It's like 6 weeks or whatever, and you got to go to a starting company, trader company. You'll do 6 months to a year there. At that point, find a decent company because the starter companies generally are not good pay, and start making your 1,500 a week. That's pretty standard with a year of experience. So at that point, you start putting $100 back. Put $100 back the first year. Just put it in a sock. Don't tell nobody. Now you got $5,200. Don't tell nobody. And you're officially not broke, and you'll make better decisions the rest of your life. You'll never freak out again thinking, what will I do if I have a flat tire or whatever? How am I going to get home if I'm 2 states away or whatever? You can't spend the money. You got to just hang on to it. Okay? So, what you're investing in is this. You know what I mean? In your head, you know what I mean? You got this, you want to do your $1,000 emergency fund and have that usable, but you want to pay yourself $100 as soon as you get your paycheck. They take taxes out, whatever like that. You take $100 bill out and you put it in a sock. That is you taxing yourself. Okay, so 5,200 a year. First year, put it back. Year number two, you get on Craigslist, you find a vehicle. You want it to be a Chevy or a Ford truck. A Chevy truck's gonna be the best because people buy Chevy trucks. I've never had any trouble selling a Chevrolet truck that was beat up to somebody that did construction. There's always Miguel loves the Chevy truck. Okay, so buy a Chevy truck, about 5,000. Okay, drive that thing for a year. Now we're hitting year three. You've put a windshield in it, set of tires, whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever you put into this truck plus your 5,000, add that together, add an additional $1,000, put it back on Craigslist with that price. Somebody calls you, let them talk you down $1,000, whatever. But you don't trade for stuff. Take cash. And if they ask you about payments, say yes. I'll take one payment of the full amount, and meet them at the police department parking lot. That helps. Okay, so you sell that truck, then you get back on there, find one for 10,000. That's more what you like. I like a single cab Chevy, 8-foot bed, 3/4 ton. You're generally going to be, they're a little bit rough on gas, but you're a truck driver, so it don't matter. You're not driving it. I got a 2018 Ram out there that I drive every time I come home, and it's got 50,000 miles. It's definitely less than 60, and my wife drives it. And when I say I drive it, like I'm in Texas, and I'll take off and drive to Oklahoma. Sometimes I drive to Missouri, swing back through Arkansas, see my sister, and come back. I mean, I load it out sometimes. I got a trailer and everything. I've loaned it to buddy here in town, and he was going. He found a Model T And he was working on it, and he had some parts that he had to get in Arkansas, and he needed a trailer. So I just loaded him the truck and trailer, and he drove it up there. So if just the mileage I put on it is probably 30,000. The guy that quit doing the oil changes, he retired, but he was taking my oil out of my truck because I run that full synthetic, and I would just change it every 3 months. And he's like, "Stop changing the oil of this thing." I said, "Well, I'm going to keep it new." And he told me one time that he was keeping the oil that came out of my truck, and that's what he was using to change the oil in his truck and his wife's car and his tractor. So, so like, anyways, I maintain my equipment. Okay, so you buy this $10,000 truck. You know, now you got a single cab truck with an 8 foot bed, 3/4 ton. Now you can do work. You have a work truck. Congratulations. At this point, you are never going to be broke again, and you have a work truck that is paid off. You never have to make payments on a car again. You have something to drive. Okay? Don't make payments on anything until you've acquired a mortgage and you're buying a house. And that's a 15-year process, right? So don't get a car payment until the house is paid off, right? So that whole situation's over here on the side. That's not what we're talking about today. Okay, so year 4 comes up. So you saved 5, you bought a truck, you flipped and bought another truck. Now you got another 5,000 here. You go find somebody and you invest in a person. We all know that guy that's, like a tree trimmer. You know what I mean? If he had 5,000, he could put down on this, bucket truck where he could increase his business and work faster, whatever. Anyway, invest the 5,000 and say, "Hey, I want to invest this 5,000 into what you're doing because you're a good dude. But I want 10% of the profit of the growth. So like whatever you're doing anyway, I don't need a piece of that, but the new jobs and the stuff that you're able to get to and all this kind of stuff from this investment, 10% of the profit, not the gross, 10% of the net, like whatever you're paying taxes on, you know what I mean? And then I want to talk to you about this, like the daily operations and stuff, and I want to learn how to do business. Your licensing and insurance and all the different things that it's taken that you're doing with the business. I want you to call me and talk with me about it or whatever, and I'm going to give you this $5,000. You do not have to give me this $5,000 back. I just want to help you make your business grow. And, in the future, when you're $1 million a year revenue with a, $80,000 profit, you know what I mean? I want 10% of that profit. And then, whatever, however that works out, those numbers are just off the top of my head. What a million, you should, 300,000 is about right for profit. So that would be me getting $30,000 a year when this dude's doing, the revenue of those amounts. And that can be capped as well, you know what I mean, based on a certain whatever, however you write the contract when you give them the 5,000. And talk to him about, hey, we're going to sit down with a lawyer and write this up this way, and I'm investing into this company. We're going to do this legit and figure out how this system works. Sit down with CPA and attorney and write this contract up, blah, blah, And the next year comes around, do it again. The next year comes around, do it again, and again, and again, and again, until you finish out your mortgage, 15-year mortgage, right? So on a 15-year cycle, say that you start driving when you're 30. Okay, now when you're done with this thing, you'll be 45 years old. You got 5,000 that you're hanging on to. Then you got your, getting flip truck. Then you got the truck that you're driving. You got your 3/4 ton Chevy. or whatever. You know what I mean? You got your, you know, your 95 3/4 ton single cab 4-wheel drive Chevrolet pickup. You know what I mean? With the 5.7 and turbo 400 transmission or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and then you have the first year of investment. You know what I mean? Like, now let's say that you've invested. Okay, so at year 4, you're starting to invest. So let's say you've done this process 10 times, and 6 times it didn't work out. You know what I mean? So 6 and 5. So you threw away $30,000. Okay, $30,000 just went out the window, and you're screwed. Right? That's your college money, bro. That was business college. You know what I mean? That is a lot cheaper than a college degree, and that's real world actually getting it done. And by the time you've been starting businesses for 12 years, you know what I mean. 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 6 will hit. You know what I mean? Some will hit and just be every quarter they're paying taxes in on you know small amounts, and you're getting 10% of that, or maybe 5% of that if it's growing. And you can set a cap too. Where like when this person's bringing in $100,000, I don't want to hit him for 10 grand. You know what I mean? But when he's making 300,000, 30 ain't that big a deal. You know what I mean? So maybe I want to do you know, adjust my 10%. However that works for you. That's what you're going to learn, and you're going to learn that with some of these people, you know, like one guy was a mobile mechanic. He's one of the best mechanics I ever knew, and he needed a shop. And I was able to help him get into it used to be a gas station, and where the canopy was out front, it was all concrete and everything. So we just put walls around it, and we actually installed the car lifts and everything before we built the walls. And then we went up on top of the canopy and covered it with solar panels. And then we wrote it all off as the awning, the canopy over the fuel island was actually a roof or a structure specifically for the solar. So on the property tax, we didn't have to pay for that. And then the store was a piece of shit, so we tore it down. So now there's no structure that's taxable on that land at all. But there's a good foundation that could be built out later, and he could build him a house there or an additional business, whatever. Don't know. That's on down the road 12, 15 years from now. So that started out over $5,000, and about 3 weekends, one with a dozer. I mean, that's just the way that one worked out. Anyway, as you do these things, and you set it, you'll learn how to set these LLCs. You'll learn how to do these management corporations and stuff like that. And the knowledge of knowing how to do business and how to set up business and stuff like that is incredibly important. And then, you're driving the truck. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing your job this whole time, and learning how to do operations and stuff like that. So, you know, you go buy a truck, and some bitch is $180,000. That's a lot different than investing 5,000 into. Is Jimmy going to actually, cut trees and use this, bucket truck, or this, he has a truck, he just needs like a wood chipper or whatever. You know what I mean? And whatever, you can buy equipment to invest or whatever. But the mental side of it, and talking with them, you're going to learn what they know, and you're going to learn it from this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and build this into a thing, right? So then you got to start looking at your land, okay? So you're making this money or whatever like that, and you're doing this over the phone, and then when you're an old man, it don't matter if you're sitting in the truck, it don't matter if you're in the city, in the country, anywhere that has a mobile phone connection. You can be anywhere in the world. with a Starlink sitting on the dash of your pickup or your RV or your airplane, whatever. And you could still do this stuff, right? And you could, I mean, you could hire somebody to do it. You can bring somebody in, you know what I mean, and be like, hey, this is what this is, this is what that is, this is what's going on and everything. You can mentor them into running your situation, you know what I mean? And the personal assistant thing that winds up taking over everything type of deal is it's really incredible. It's really incredible to try to work that out. I have stepped from all that type of stuff to focus on the Bible type stuff because that's like the enduring overarching, right? Okay, but anyway, back to this land deal. So like I call it the donut method, where you take, you know, a growing would 25 years ago, Denver, south of Denver, you know, you got Colorado Springs and then on up to Denver. But south of Denver, for a long ways, was developed, and then north of Denver, for a long ways, was developed, and then to the west was a freaking steep mountain, right? So the only place they really had to expand, especially commercial, was to go to the east. Okay, so I was like, you know, guessing how far it is to drive for 30 minutes. You know, so you put the compass, the compass with the pointy thing and the pencil, you set that thing at 30 minutes, and then you draw a circle. 30 minutes of driving on a map. And then you spread that compass out real wide and set that thing like this, and then draw an hour and 15 minutes. Nobody's going to drive back and forth to work more than an hour and 15 minutes. It's better to keep it at an hour, but if there's just something that's real sweet, that's an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, because you drive an hour and 15 minutes, do your thing all day downtown, come back, you know. And then when you look at your map, you see these two circles that look like a donut. Anything inside that ring, anything inside your donut, you look for unimproved land. Okay, north was taken, south was taken, mountains over here. So obviously come over here to this side and buy up the land. So you drive around everything, and then when you see, especially when you see the old farmer type of guy, you know, you go up there and talk to him, say, hey, you know, I'm you know, truck driver and everything, and I'm looking for some land to buy. I like the area and everything, and you know, I'm looking for unimproved land. Let me buy 10 acres off your land down here by the road or whatever like that, so I got access to my power and all that kind of stuff like that. But it's going to be 10 or 15 years before I move out here. You know what I mean? And you know, I could go to the bank and get some money, or I could just pay you, you know, payments or however you want to do this, and let them tell you what they'll do. That's a pretty good deal. Let them tell you what they're going to do. Okay, so you know, you go over here, talk to this guy, go over here, talk to that guy, whatever like that, and you know, uh, you're going to get shot down 9 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? If you're talking to people, and every person that you talk to, it's like, yeah, we could do some kind of deal. You know what I mean? If they're eager, and you know, 7 out of the 10 are like, yes, we'll sell it to you right now. There's something wrong. You know what I mean? You got to use your gut. You got to use your head, and then you got to do your due diligence. I put a playlist about buy land. And there's a guy there that talks a lot about stuff and your due diligence and mineral rights. And is it a super fun site? And you know, go to the library and look at the public records. Is there anything attached to the land? You know, do your due diligence. Those videos will help you. Playlist is buy land. That guy's a very, very knowledgeable fella, and the other thing is, like, you know what things are worth. You know what I mean? How far am I from the road? What's it going to take to get power, water, sewage? Could you have a trailer house there? Can you, what's the requirements of the land? So that's a big deal. But we did great out there because, they put in a freaking airport and everybody see it coming that was looking. Nobody was looking. That's about 25 years ago. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm doing here today is I just see this deal. I downloaded an app for finding foreclosures. I think that one thing is findforeclosures.com. It's a free deal, and you can put in your thing. Then there's the tax auction thing. Okay, so let's say it's been 15 years, and then your place is paid off, and you get a open-ended mortgage, right? You got these streaming incomes. Say you got 4 incomes, and every quarter you're getting 30,000. Okay, and that's your percentage off of these four companies that you grew. Uh, you know, sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. I mean, freaking pandemic, right? You know what I'm saying? But like right now, they have a giant shortage of fire trucks, and there's like a monopoly on the chassis and body for fire trucks. So like, if I knew some guys that was going to do that was pretty handy with wrenches, you know what I mean? It might be worthwhile to refurbish fire trucks right now. It if if they're on back order for 2 to 4 years everywhere, and everybody's need them, and then like you see that thing with the fires out in L.A. and all them fire trucks are all broke down and stuff like that. People can't get parts or whatever, and then it turns out that there was a lot of mom and pop shops that were local that did the fire trucks, right? It wouldn't take a whole lot of research to figure out who used to do that and how to put that back in business. You know what I mean? How to open that back up and get that type of situation going. And with our current environment, administration, and all that kind of stuff, if you went to pull the right strings and build fire trucks and talk to the right people. And I'm talking about like go to your banks and go to your. You could probably go straight to the firefighters and figure out who's paying them and who's buying the trucks, and then go to the county and get a hold of them politicals and stuff like that and everything, and then like go to like your farm bureau type stuff, and then if a man was willing to put up a little collateral and had a decent name, uh, I don't know what it would I don't know what it would take to buy and fix up a fire truck and flip it. But there's a market there to do that. There really is. There really is. And a fella could do that if he set his mind to it. A fella could definitely do that. And there's got to be. It's almost every industry. We know that the decoupling with China's coming and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So what are they making that we're not, and then how can we do that? You know what I mean? And these different industries and stuff, and how to make that happen. We see it coming around the corner. You know what I mean? And uh, whether there's war or not or anything else like that, the sentiment is there and it's growing, and the politicals are there. So, I mean, has there ever been a better opportunity? I mean, I just see so much opportunity everywhere. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm out here. I got on that X, and it's got that Grok AI, and I just asked it. I said, "Hey, what do I got to do to get my authority to haul general freight?" And this thing just spit out the whole list of every step, and I it was pretty thorough. It was pretty thorough. I was, from what I know about what it takes, I didn't find anything I didn't know, but looking over the list, I didn't find anything that was missing. And it even spit out, the 5 to 10,000 for insurance. You know what I mean? It even talked about that. You know what I mean? So that was quite interesting. And the so if you're thinking about these things, you know what I mean, and you're trying to get your YouTube certification or whatever else like that, don't underestimate the grok on X. Get on there, click that thing. I think you can ask it a series of questions for free every 2 hours. It said, because somebody did a video about it, or whatever, and I got on there and everything. I was just like, was the Earth created? You know what I mean? Well, first I asked it what logic and science was, observable science, and then I asked it about the Earth and was it created and everything. It's like, well, if there's, you know, if the Earth was created, then obviously there's a creator. And it was dodging the question. It really was hardcore trying to talk around it and make a big lengthy whatever. Seemed kind of evil, honestly, but that's just the way the science is, you know. But as far as like, uh, what do I need to make buttermilk? I guess or whatever. You can ask it a recipe for banana bread, or like how do I start an LLC in this county of this state. You know what I mean? It'll get the thoughts in your head where you can get it down on paper and be like, okay, now I need to contact this office to get this piece of paper. You know what I mean? Then you Google the phone number to the office and you call them. What do I need to obtain this piece of paper or whatever? You see what I'm saying? And have your licensing and insurances and all this stuff straight to start these companies. You know what I mean? And I've gone through it, to do the dogs, go through it to do the rentals, go through it, back in the day. I did not go through all that stuff. I just did the business. And, Skip's Home Services was a completely fly by night thing. And most of it, I mean, I probably would have, well, I don't know. I don't know that I would have done any better or any worse. I drank it up a lot, so it didn't work out. But, anyways, that's a lot of life lessons. I just wanted to put this down. This is more for me to look back on. This is what is today? May the 24th, 2025. You know, and I got some weed eating to do tomorrow. I finally got home, so I'm gonna get a good night's rest and get after it tomorrow. But the Lord is good; His mercy endures forever. And this stuff is very, very, very superficial compared to your salvation. You know what I mean? When I think about all these different things and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or whatever else like that, But man, I was talking to a guy this morning, and this guy was obviously from India. And I gave him and his wife a Bible, and I really talked to him about the difference between you know the Creator versus you know 57,000 different, God of this, God of that, God of this, God of that. I was just like, those are demons. You know, anything that's taking the Creator's glory and that's they're perpetrating a lie, and those are demons. Well, Sweet Tea's called. I'm gonna get off here. Rock Hill, go read your Bible, get a plan together.